Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Justice League number 6. There are 7 nefarious forces out there that were released when the source wall broke at the end of the pages of Metal. And we know 2 of them so far. Are any of the other 5 mysterious forces revealed in this issue? Let's check it out. Guys, in a nutshell, no, unfortunately, no new forces are revealed in this issue. So what we have, the 7 deadly forces that are apparently released for when the source wall broke and the totality came to Earth, slamming into Earth. The only way that they can somehow get to the bottom and take control of the totality is to enter the totality. But the only people that can do that without getting infected are Superman and Martian Manhunter. So Batman hides in the bloodstream of Superman as Superman enters the totality, and Hawkgirl hides in the bloodstream of Martian Manhunter as he enters the totality. Unfortunately for them, the Joker is also hidden secretly in Martian Manhunter's body, and Lex Luthor is hidden in Superman's body. Lex Luthor last issue supposedly killed Batman and has taken over Superman's body. While he controls Superman, Lex Luthor has that doorknob, which is the key to a connection to the totality somehow, to release the other, to connect with the other 5 deadly forces that we don't know what they are, because we got the Still Force and we have the Ultraviolet Core. And meanwhile, Joker supposedly killed Hawkgirl. Okay, so that brings us into this issue 6. Right off the bat, I gotta say right up front, my initial criticism of Justice League so far is that it's not a very smooth read. It's convoluted and it's confusing, and it's got very poor transitions from issue to issue. It's not the easiest thing to transition along, but I mean, it's interesting. I do find it interesting. I like the fact that there's 7 forces, and so it's got some pretty cool concepts, but unfortunately, I think the execution is a little lacking in the storyline so far, but I'm still with it. A couple of things were revealed in this issue that I think are worthy of note. Number 1, it was revealed in a conversation between Black Manta and the Cheetah. It was revealed that they hinted at 2 of the other forces are, and I'll get to that in a moment. But they also said that apparently there were 7 good forces. In our universe already had 7 existing forces, and these 7 forces that were released when the source wall broke, that are encapsulated within the totality, they're the opposite. They're the opposite of the forces that already exist in our dimension, which is interesting, because what are the 7 forces that we have? Where I'm going with this, where I think DC and Scott Snyder in general is going with this, is that I think we're going to be moving toward the equivalent of what I think are sort of like the Infinity Stones, or the Infinity Gems, where in the Marvel Universe, where we got the Mind Stone, the Soul Stone, the Power Stone, the Strength, etc., etc. We're going to have these 7 forces. So you got your 6 power, Marvel has their 6 Infinity Gems or whatever, stones. The DC Universe, they're trying to create 7. Instead of using the same number 6, they're going to go with 7. 7 has always been a magical number in the DC Universe. The 7 soldiers, we got the sort of the iconic 7 members of the Justice League. And we got your 7 iconic members of the Legion of Doom. And so now you're going to have these 7 deadly forces, the 7 good forces and the 7 deadlier forces and the darker forces in the DC Universe. And it's going to be encapsulated within the totality. And when I think of the totality, I think of the totality almost like an Infinity Gauntlet. The totality is sort of like channels all these deadly forces that if you possess all these forces, which is what Lex Luthor is trying to do, he's trying to collect all 5 of them, because they've already got 2 of them. The Legion of Doom has got the Still Force and the Ultraviolet Core. If they can unite all those forces, then it almost creates it completes the circuit, much like the Infinity Gauntlet completes the circuit when all the Infinity Gems are together. If you can somehow encapsulate all these 7 deadly forces, you complete the circuit and you can rule the multiverse, so to speak. That's how I see this going, to try to explain it in my head. And the totality right now is on the planet, and what happens in this issue, and it's a little bit unclear, is a little bit more hope is introduced, that all is not completely lost, because at the end of last issue we thought Batman was dead and Hawkgirl was killed by Joker, and as it turned out, Batman was hiding a piece of kryptonite in him, and because he's within Superman's body, Superman's antibodies couldn't kill Batman because of the kryptonite, and so Batman saved himself from death, and he was able to attack Luthor and struggle with Luthor to get that sort of doorknob that Luthor had. And he was unsuccessful in preventing Luthor from getting that doorknob and connecting somewhat to the totality. And Luthor, upon getting it, he banished Batman, and he banished all the members of the Justice League back to the Hall of Justice, back within the Hall of Justice somehow. It's kind of confusing. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know why Luthor would do that, but he got rid of them somehow. But somehow he never got rid of Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl was still there because Hawkgirl was in Martian Manhunter's body, and Hawkgirl apparently wasn't killed by the Joker's toxins. I'm not really sure how she survived, and maybe it was because of her connection to the metal in her wings, the nth metal. Maybe that saved her from the Joker's toxins. That's what I'm guessing. So she managed to almost incapacitate the Joker, but then when Luthor made his connection to the I guess the doorknob, which was connected to the totality, he banished them to the I don't know why Luthor wouldn't just kill them, but the Justice League ended up back in the Justice League and back in the Hall of Justice, and then they apparently the Justice League, as the Earth is slowly being overridden by as the Earth is being overridden by the forces of the ultraviolet core and the still force in a way that still doesn't make any sense, because I don't know how the still force is a power. I don't know how slowing people down is a power. It's never explained by Scott Snyder. I don't know how the ultraviolet core, by accessing negative emotions, I still don't know how that destroys a planet. I mean, let's be blunt here. If you got a planet of people who are accessing their negative emotions, it doesn't mean you're going to destroy the planet. It just means everyone's accessing their negative emotions. We have an entire country of the United States right now where people are accessing their negative emotions, and the economy's doing great. Everyone's happy. So what's the big deal? You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. There's not enough exposition as to explaining what the big deal is here. There's 5 other forces that we don't know that have to be accessed yet, and I'm asking myself, I'm not even sure that I care, because why should I? Because we're 6 issues in, and the writer doesn't seem to care to want to tell us. And now apparently there's 7 other forces that were here all along, that were the good forces that have counter forces that Black Manta and Cheetah are referring to, and we don't even know what they are. So now I'm assuming one of them is the Speed Force, is one of those. But what are the other than 6 countervailing forces for good? I don't know. This is really, really something where DC. I know that you don't want to copy Marvel's synopsis page, but I mean, at least with Infinity Wars, there's that. Infinity Wars right now has a great opening page where it explains what all the Infinity Stones do. This should have a page that explains all the 7 forces right up front, put it right out there, because the mystery of building to what these forces are, it's not interesting. It's not interesting at all. If you wanted to build that interest, you should have. You should have frankly told us up front. It should have been one of those things that was revealed right up front. It would have been far, far more interesting. You right away identify it. Sort of like the event, Dan Didio made the comment about Infinity Wars doing comics better than comics. This is an example of how this comic is not as good as the movie. Beginning of Infinity Wars, Doctor Strange explained to Tony what all the stones did. This should have been right up front, issue 1. Explain in detail what all the 7 new forces are. In detail. Explaining it. Spell it out so we know what's at stake. We still don't know what's at stake. And we're 6 issues in. Like really, are we going to be at issue 50 and not know? Don't pull a Tom King, Mr. Snyder. Please don't do a Tom King and think you're going to be writing for 100 issues and then drag a story out. I don't know. I just really, really hope this sort of pays off. Again, this has hope. This has potential. It ends with the Justice League here accessing, sort of embracing some of the negativity and the negative emotions in a sort of a paradoxical way of trying to access. They sort of gave in, and instead of trying to fight off these 2 forces of the Still Force and the Ultraviolet Core, they're actually giving in to some of their darker emotions as a way of ironically trying to rechannel those emotions and save the planet. Again, it's not really explained, very poorly explained. And I don't really get what's going on. This is really kind of forgettable. Cover isn't even directly relevant to what's going on. The Manta and Cheetah hint at what two other forces are in a very poor way. So it's the dialogue here is just, it gets really bad at times. Manta says, look at this. I have spent my life on the seas, Cheetah, seeking treasures hidden in the dark. What Luthor has uncovered, though, the invisible spectrum, the still force. He mentioned the two. Now he's going to mention two other ones. Now these artifacts, and they show these two artifacts. The key to the graveyard of gods and the tear of extinction. It's frustrating. Black Manta just completely encapsulated the frustration of us readers and why this series so far is so frustrating. Like literally. So what does that mean? The graveyard of gods. The key to the graveyard of gods. Is that a force? And the tear, as in a paper tear, the tear of extinction. So those are two forces now. We have the graveyard of gods and the tear of extinction are apparently representative of two forces. Black Manta wouldn't even sound that way. That doesn't even make sense. And he's staring at what, we don't even know what the artifacts are. They don't seem to make a lot of sense. And then Cheetah says, I still don't understand. You're angry. We now have the means to crush your enemies. How do you have the means to crush your enemies? I mean, if use your characters, Mr. Snyder, to explain what's going on to the reader. We're 6 issues in. I mean, I'm Black Manta and Cheetah they clearly can't know what's going on. What forces are they talking about? And if these are countervailing forces to the good forces of our universe, well, at least tell us what the 7 forces are of our universe. We know maybe one of them is the Speed Force, but you're not even filling in the blanks to tell us why we should care about this story, because we don't even know what's going on in our universe with these other forces. So I gotta tell you, this is how you do it wrong. Now Infinity Wars has been too convoluted as well leading up, but at least there's an explanation page at the beginning to help the reader along. This desperately needs that. Desperately needs that. This now in terms of the art's okay. Jorge Jimenez does a really good job. There's a great picture here of the Joker. The art here is pretty good, but I can't blame Jimenez for the failure of the art to tell a story, because it's clear that Scott Snyder doesn't want the reader to know the story yet, and that's the problem. We need this story to understand what's going on, and there are sequences in here that I have no idea what's going on. There's a sequence here where Hawkgirl just shows up and is attacking Lex Luthor when Lex Luthor I thought was still in Superman's body, and if he isn't, I don't know how Hawkgirl can even be there. That's just one example. It's filled with examples like that where I just don't know what's going on, where they are, what the setting is, where they are on the planet Earth, whether they're on Earth, whether they're in Superman's body, whether they're in Martian Manhunter. This is just not a very well put together comic book, and it's very frustrating. And if this keeps up, I just can't see this series maintaining sales. I can't see it. So I hope for a vast improvement on this. Story-wise, I give this a 5 out of 10. Art-wise, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. The art's pretty good, but the art does not save this story. So hopefully things will improve. And until next time, guys, subscribe to me if hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40, Comic Boom at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.